Who knew that the cheat code to selling more cars was simple? More tech, more features, more luxury, and price it absurdly low. Oh, I guess everyone except NIO. Until they had this big-brained idea with the Onvo L90, and that's been a hit. And instead of overthinking their next move, they've just gone, and another one. Run the same play again, but this time for the bigger, flashier, brand new NIO ES8. I'm Will, and this is China Driven. Now, NIO isn't messing around with this brand new ES8. Now, we'll get to the tech and features later, but the headline has to be the absolute massive drop in price between this new generation ES8 and the outgoing model. Now, this new generation is priced at 416,800 RMB, which is around about $58,000. But what you have to understand is the outgoing ES8, when that was launched, was priced at 528,000 RMB, around $75,000. So that means that this new ES8 is over $17,000 cheaper. But if the starting price is the left jab, then the right hook has to be the BaaS pricing. Because if you opt for BaaS, that's where you rent the battery for a monthly fee, then the initial purchase price of this is pushed down to 308,000 RMB, which is around $43,000. And if rumors are to be believed, there's been a lot of orders for this. Batteries and range, that EV stuff, let's get into it. Now, NIO normally has a big battery and a small battery, but so far they've only given us one, the 102 kilowatt hour CATL NCM. I do believe it's a Turing pack from CATL, and it's the same pack as you'll find in the NIO ET9. Now, in the ES8, they say it will give you 635 kilometers of range on the CLTC. Now, that's not real world range, and some people comment, why do you even, say that range? Well, I just give it as a reference point. So if you go and look at, say, the Onvo L90, you can see both ranges quoted in the same test cycle. And in terms of efficiency, NIO claims 16.6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which is pretty damn good for such a big boy. Now, they also say that this has a peak charge rate of 600 kilowatts. This is on the NIO NT3 platform, which is a 900 volt platform. But staying true to NIO roots, they don't quote or give us any charging time, kind of 10 to 80%. However, they'd like to remind those of you who haven't been paying attention that you can swap the NIO ES8 at a NIO battery swap station in less than 3 minutes. So technically you can go from 0 to 93% in 3 minutes. The L90 is functional, kind of like a hippo, big mouth, big storage and big presence. The ES8, refined, sculpted, less in your face, but refinement comes at a cost. Because when it comes to enormous frunks, this one doesn't quite lend itself to sitting down comfortably. I mean, you're fit, but it's not as elegant as the L90's flat front solution. So the new ES8 comes with a big frunk, 230 liters. Yes, that's 10 liters less than the Onvo L90, but it's still a massive frunk. And it's so easy to open. All you have to do is press and hold a button or talk to it. Hey, Nomi.
我来了。
开前备箱。
好的，可以随时通过屏幕上的按钮停止哦。
Or talk to it outside. Hey, Nomi. 开前备箱。You can knock it. You could just wiggle your foot, or you could just push it. Or you can even ask it from really far away. Hey, Nomi, 开前备箱. Think of all the madness you could create in a car park full of NIOs. You have to excuse how dirty the car is because it was chucking it down this morning. But one thing I absolutely love about the frunk in this NIO ES8 is that they actually included a 12 volt, 180 watt outlet. Whereas the Onvo L90, I criticized it for not having any power in the frunk, so I'm glad to see it here. This new ES8 is more sculpted compared to the L90, like a tailored suit versus a tracksuit, both functional but in different ways.
The headlight units are now less soft, more chiseled, sharing a similarity with the ET9 and updated ET5, whilst the crystal-like daytime running lights add to its upscaled appearance, and also those diamond-cut multi-spoke 22-inch rims look classy.
This all-new NIO ES8 is a long boy. It's China's longest pure EV SUV on the market. It's 5.28 meters long. That's longer than a long wheelbase Range Rover. And if you catch it at the wrong angle, it can look a little unflattering, that length. But just like the Range Rover, the darkened upper half serves to hide some of that heft. And eventually, when you walk to the back of it, you'll come to the trunk, obviously. And with the seats up, you're looking at 547 liters, but that also includes quite a deep storage underneath the boot floor. But if you drop that third row, then you'll get a total of 1,561 liters. But actually, there is a 7-seat version, I haven't talked about it all day. The second row can be a bench. You could also fold that one down. So if you have the 7-seater, you can actually fold the third and the second row seats down to get a total of 3,230 liters, which means if you've been calculating and counting as you've been going along, including the frunk, if you had the 7-seater, you would be able to take a total storage of 3,460 liters, which is just a huge amount. And of course, because it's on air suspension, you can also just push a button inside to drop the whole car on its rear axle to aid loading things into the back. Do you know the easiest way to make a premium feeling interior cockpit? It's easy. You just take the one from your flagship model and you just shove it in, because basically the best way to describe this ES8's front cockpit is, well, they just took out the ET9 and molded it into the ES8 shape. And you see, this is where you'll see the ES8 pull away from the likes of the Onvo L90. And I said that the Onvo L90's interior was superb. I said it was basically equal in terms of materials and quality to my second generation NIO ET7. And I still believe that to be true. But this kind of ET9 based interior in this brand new ES8, well, it's just a cut above. And the materials in here, well, they're just better than the L90. You've got real wood trim, you've got metal in here, you've got Napa leather pretty much straight out of the NIO ET9. 120,000 stitches, by the way, in this quilted leather, and it feels high quality, but not overly soft. It makes me feel that, say, in 100,000 kilometers, this is still gonna look good. Now, these front seats, of course, have heat, ventilation, and multi-point spa massage. But if I'm honest, they are a step down from the ET9. There's no hot stone massage here. And let me tell you, the ET9 with the hot stone massage and the butt massage going, well, that's just heavily motorway cruising. In here, well, it's still damn comfortable. And the one thing that I really enjoy about this NIO ES8 is the return of physical buttons. Just like the Onvo L90, you have the seat controls here on the door, but in addition to that, you also have access to the massage, ventilation, and heat down here. And I really welcome returns to physical buttons for some features, because I hate having to dive in to the screen for every single function, or having to have a chit chat with my AI voice assistant just to warm my butt up. Now, all the screens in here are top notch. They're all being run by a Snapdragon 8295P. And in the center, you get this 15.6-inch 3K AMOLED screen. Now, it is running Cedar OS, which is the OS for NIO's NT3 cars. It replaces Banyan OS, which is in the NT2 cars. It's very familiar as NIO's system, although it's been reworked from Banyan, and they've moved some things around, added a few little functions. I'm a fan of it, but like I said, it's vaguely familiar to me because I drive a NIO. Now, behind the steering wheel, you'll find a 38-inch AR heads-up display. Now, it is really clear, and it's got a couple of neat functions, like it will highlight when it sees pedestrians on the road in front of you and give you warnings like that, as well as kind of an arrow and a pathway for you to follow while you're driving. Now, I know it sounds silly, but 38 inches in today's world is not that big when we have some manufacturers offering over 80 inches or more, but it is very clear and it is really, really useful to use. As for an instrument panel, well, it does have one. It's part of this 48-inch 5K OLED screen that stretches from one side of the car to the other side of the car. I mean, it's very neat and unobtrusive and kind of straight out of the ET9. I'm a big fan of it, and the fact it's one single panel, I'm really impressed by that, because to be honest with you, you can't see it behind the screen. NIO could have just chopped it in half and had two 24 inches, but they said no. Luxury is luxury. Now, in terms of other things up here, now you don't have a single glass panoramic roof up here for reasons I'll get into in a moment, but what you do have is a kind of small sunroof which you can open and does have a sunshade. You also, of course, have dual ventilated charging pads for your phone. You also got a nice little cup holder which can be hidden very nicely, and you also have this multi-function button. It's not kind of a button because you can push it, you can slide it, you can do different things, but you basically have some buttons on the side which you can set to do quick things. This one on this side, for example, is changing the screen in front of the passenger, but then you can use this whole kind of bar, this capacitive touch bar, to swipe or to press, and you can set it to things like quick swipe to change track, or slow swipe in order to do volume. You can set this up how you like. Behind there, you got a little bit of storage, 3 USB-Cs in there. There's also a 3-pin socket in here as well, which is nice to see. And there's also a little channel here so you can run cables to the back as well. And of course, being a NIO, you've got NIO. We're third generation NIO up here, which means you can wiggle her about a little bit more. And she complains that she feels a bit dizzy. The steering wheel, you have multi-functions, and you can see them, but also at the same time, they're not like super crystal clear. They've kind of gone for a translucent film over the top of them. I don't know, maybe you think that looks more premium. I'm not really quite sure. Sometimes in direct light, you know, it's a little bit harder to see them. Now, this obviously is a 3-row 6-seat, so as nice as this front row is, let's go check out the rest of this long beast. The second row is exactly what you'd expect, a continuation of premiumness from the front. Back here, you get 2 large captain armchairs with heat, ventilation and massage, the same as the front, and all easily accessible, again, on the panel here. But if pushing the button is just too much for you, then you could always call on your indentured AI slave to help you do things. Hey, Nomi.
我在，
开冰箱.
正在打开冰箱门。
Of course, it's got a fridge. That's a staple of any 3-row SUV nowadays in China. And this thing can cool things down to -2 or up to 50 degrees. And above it, you have a 8-inch little screen here. Now, you can use it as a control panel to control things like your AC, the fridge. You could use it to control media, and you could use it to even watch things on here. But if you did that, it'd be quite stupid, because just above, up here, you have a, well, frankly huge 21.4-inch 3K mini LED screen with Dolby Vision. And the picture on this thing is fantastic. And paired with the upgraded sound system in here, it's a 27 speaker, 2,600 watt, 8.1.4.2 Dolby Atmos spatial audio. Well, you have a pretty decent movie setup in here. And you can also use a controller, but it's nowhere to be found in here. But don't worry, if you've got small children, you'll lose your remote control as well, probably almost immediately. That 8.1.4.2, yes, this car has it, but actually only the driver gets that 0.2 at the end because they have these two headrest speakers. Everybody else in the cabin basically has 8.1.4 spatial audio. So, yeah. Back here, next to the seat controls of heat, ventilation, and massage, there are two new buttons, which basically are two new features for a NIO. Now, you may be able to see, it will take a little while, I've pressed one of the buttons and this glass is going to get much, much darker. This basically is electrochromatic glass. You might have seen something similar on some cars' glass roofs in order to block out sun. NIO are using this though in order to increase privacy back here. Now the other button is for full privacy mode. And basically what NIO is telling me now is security mode, privacy mode, full privacy mode is engaged. The roof shades have closed, the glass is getting as dark as it can, and these front seats are raised up as much as they can to block as much view from the front towards the back. All the screens have been turned off, and German reviewers will absolutely love this part. Nomi is no longer listening nor talking. Hey Nomi, she can't hear me. She's basically dead. With another press of that button, everything comes back to life. Nomi comes back online. All the screens come back online. I guess things are not so private anymore. Now this car has 3 gravity seats, that front passenger seat and these 2 in the rear. And basically if you just push a button, then everything's gonna start moving. That front seat's gonna move out of the way. And this seat you might have just seen kind of moves into the center. And the reason why it does that is so that it can clear the rear wheel arch. Now it's lifted me up into 0 gravity mode. And also something else that has happened, because it's moved me away from the door, I can no longer really use this door armrest comfortably. And so what happens is a smaller armrest raises so I can be more comfortable. And this definitely is the way to travel for sure. A press of a button and everything will go back to normal. And you can do that in this seat, that front passenger seat, and this other second row seat. Now, obviously, this seat has the most kind of space in order to do this function. And if you're traveling, this is definitely the seat that you want to be in. Big TV, can properly relax, you get your fridge down there, massage, ventilate your heated seats, properly classy way to travel.
In the rear, you also get a table, but only on the passenger side. You also get magnetic fixed points for accessories like tablet or phone holders. There's also pull-up sunshades for the windows, 2 large roof-mounted vanity mirrors, and B-pillar mounted air outlets.
All right, so here I am in the 3rd row, sat behind where I was when I was sat in the 2nd row. Now, in terms of space back here, yeah, I mean, it's fairly spacious 3rd row. I've got knee room, and there's a cutout in the bottom of this seat in order to put your feet, or you could put 1 foot here. Now I'm only 1.7 meters. I've got, you know, just over a fist of headroom space here. I would say just straight off the bat, without knowing any figures, I feel like the Onvo L90 is more spacious in this 3rd row. And I think that might be because these seats maybe are more substantial, these 2nd row seats in this ES8. And also, you know, these seats feel a bit more padded as well. And I know it sounds a little bit silly, but you're talking only about centimeters making the difference in how big this 3rd row feels. So, you know, add a little bit to the seats there, add a little bit of cushioning in the back here, and all of a sudden you've lost like a centimeter or so. Now you do have recline, so you can recline the seat, whoa, back to there, which is a decent amount. You've got heated seats back here. You don't have ventilation or massage. You can also move these seat bases as well. So, you know, they go quite far forwards. That's if you want to, you know, get more room in the trunk back there. Other than that, you've got a USB-C fast charger back here. You've got a cup holder. You've got another air outlet in the B pillar, and also you've got a nice large reading light here. The glass roof stops just in front of you, so you don't feel super claustrophobic in here. The windows are not that large here, but they're at the right level where when you turn your head, you look straight out. These will also darken as well, but it's controlled by the button in the second row. You can't darken these independently. One last thing is that this car actually has 5-zone AC. So you got a zone for the driver and front passenger. You got a zone for each of the people in the second row. And then this third row has 1 zone to share. But that's quite impressive, and you won't find that on every 3-row SUV out there. I'm pretty sure the L90, for example, doesn't have 5 zones. And that's just going to help to make the third row even more comfortable. Yeah, it's fairly impressive now, but I still think that the L90, if you need a third row that you need to use regularly, and you might actually need to use it with, you know, large adults, then the L90 probably is better for that function. However, if small little people like me or children, this is a quality third row. Okay, I'm not going to talk too much about ADAS because actually these models, they're not completely ready. These are just pre-production models that are rolled out for the media to kind of drive them before launch to kind of get a feel of the car. But I will come back to NIO's ADAS in another video for their NT3 platform. But basically this has the same hardware as the NIO ET9, which, by the way, if you haven't watched my ET9 video, go watch that. Which means that it has 3 LiDAR, 2 on the side, and it still has the roof-mounted LiDAR as well. Now that's an NIO Fusion LiDAR unit. It's actually 300 line LiDAR. It's very high resolution, normally like 180 line LiDAR. So that is really, really a high quality LiDAR unit. And of course, this is going to be running NIO's world model. It uses NIO's own ADAS chips as well. And they promise, obviously, that this is going to leap them into the first tier of ADAS in China. This will be ready for the ES8 on launch, just not in these pre-production vehicles. Okay, driving the NIO ES8, let's get it out of the way. 520 kilowatts of power and 700 Newton meters of torque means that this 5.28 meter long SUV can go 0 to 100 in 3.95 seconds. Don't you dare say 4 seconds. This is officially, according to NIO, a sub 4-second car. And don't worry, because this thing will also brake. This is using NIO's brand new in-house developed aluminium 4-piston calipers, and they say it will go from 100 to 0 in 34.9 meters, which is pretty good considering how large this car is. And you'd be wrong thinking that's just off the line, down low grunt. NIO says 80 to 120 kilometers an hour. This will outsprint a BMW M5 G90 and a 911 Carrera S. This will do 80 to 120 kilometers in 1.96 seconds. The BMW takes 2.9 seconds, and that 911 Carrera S, 2 seconds. This new NIO ES8 has what NIO is calling its Prime Ride AI smart chassis. And what that means is that all the sensors in here, including NIO's own ADAS chip, are all going to talk to each other in order to give the best ride possible. Now this of course has dual chamber air suspension, and it has 100 millimeters of travel from its lowest setting to its highest setting. And this also comes with CDC that's able to read the road in 1 millisecond and react in 2 milliseconds. So that's pretty kind of standard stuff that you would imagine. This also has access to NIO's 4D cloud map. That's the system where, as NIOs drive over a road, they record the imperfections in the road, and next time a NIO drives down that road, it has that information so the car can set itself up proactively in order to make the ride as comfortable as possible. New for that 4D cloud map is slip seam control. There are some different areas that the cars will now identify and upload to the cloud map where you might get slippery kind of situations, and the most obvious one is expansion gaps on the highway or on elevated roads. So in the rain they can be really quite slippery, and so now this ES8 will be able to upload that information to the cloud map.
China loves epoxy floors for parking lots, great when dry and like an ice rink when wet. Exactly what you don't want. Luckily, this ES8 packs the world's first epoxy floor speed control, low grip braking that slashes stopping distance by up to 50%, and smart vision that spots trouble and stops you understeering into it. Nice. Another nice thing is, thanks to a smaller 900-volt front motor, the ES8 has a lot more steering angle, 41 degrees to be exact. Pair that with software and hardware that can speed up or slow down individual wheels mid-turn, and this 5.28 meter SUV has a turning radius of just 5.7 meters. Context, a Tesla Model 3 is 6.4 meters.
Now, NIO say that this is, dynamic and it doesn't have a boat-like feeling, but at the end of the day, this is a 5.28 meter long SUV. At no point do you forget that while driving this. At the end of the day, you cannot, ignore physics. You are always aware that this is a big vehicle. Or it does fairly well. And the steering, whilst overly light, which is quite normal on Chinese EVs, it's direct and there's not a lot of deadness off center. It's quite good. Whereas a lot of large SUVs in this segment in China, just off center, a lot of the time there's a lot of vagueness or not really much happens. This doesn't bounce all over the place. You don't have a huge amount of body roll. Honestly, it's very well controlled. So that's impressive. And of course, that helps keep all of your passengers nice and comfy in the back. It's okay being soft over road surfaces, but if everybody's being thrown backwards and forwards and side to side, that's not a comfy ride, no matter how soft it might be. And comfort-wise, this beats out the L90, and I didn't think that I would be able to notice it that much, but I have to say there is a difference. There's nothing bad against the Onvo L90. For the price, the Onvo L90 is extremely comfortable. This is just better, and it should be, especially when you're talking about like very small vibrations. I was driving this on gravel yesterday, and I was very impressed with how it dealt with all of that kind of very, very small vibrations, really suppressing them into the cabin. Yes, you could still feel you're driving over gravel, but it really wasn't that bad. It was very, very surprising.
NIO's light carpet, which we first saw in the flagship ET9, is back again for the ES8. Using its smart matrix pixel headlights, it can illuminate a brighter light carpet that bends and reacts to the road en route. It can also signify to other drivers some of your intentions, like here where it spreads the light into the lane that you're trying to merge into. Or the smart line can even help out other road users. Oh, be careful, bike. Can you see it? The doggy? Barely, right? But the smart matrix headlights illuminate it while also placing a warning symbol on the floor. Even as it illuminates pedestrian dangers, it will still block out its pixels so not to dazzle them with light. That one you didn't see, but the car did. Even as it illuminates the danger, it's a long time until we see there's just a guy on a bike in the middle of a dark road.
Now, the ES8 has a bit of a harder time these days because for the first generation, second generation, the ES8 was the pinnacle, the top of the NIO food chain, and it no longer is. Right now, you have the ET9, and even though it's not confirmed, we all assume there is going to be an ES9, a kind of ET9, if you like, all that hardware and software in an SUV form. And below this generation of ES8, you have its little brother, the Onvo L90, which represents great value for comfort, tech, and features. And so this ES8 has to kind of slot in between those two, but still offer a very premium experience. But it's not allowed to have access to all of NIO's latest and greatest hardware and software solutions. And when I was doing the L90, I did really worry about this ES8 because I didn't know how they were going to do that. It's a very tight line to walk. However, I am happy to report that I think they might have just nailed this. The price is obviously ridiculously good, but this is extremely good, a cut above the L90, and I still think that it's enough below the ET9 and later ES9 to warrant the price hike on that model. Now, one other thing that, if you saw the launch of the ES8, you know that the CEO, William Li, talked a lot about this car being a replacement for an MPV. Yeah, I mean, I can see what he's getting at, and for some people that may be true. But at the end of the day, people have MPVs in China. It's not really because an MPV is better for its function. It's very much the fact like this. If you turn up in this and get out the back of it, and I turn up and get out the back of an MPV, one of us looks like we were driven there by our own driver, and one of us looks like someone dropped us off. Out of everybody who I know who has a driver, and there's quite a few, I'm gonna say like 2 people I know use a large SUV like this with a driver. The rest of them all use MPVs. And I'm not saying that their MPVs necessarily are more expensive or cheaper or a better brand. There's just a status symbol with MPVs and being driven in them in China, in a lot of China. And so while you might convince private people, families, that this is better than going out and getting an MPV, I still think that there's still a portion of people out there who are going to want an MPV and a driver. So that's it for the new NIO ES8. It's bigger, it's smarter, it's more luxurious, and this time it's priced to actually win. It's a proper reset for NIO's flagship SUV. My job here is done. I spent all day in Ningxia, China's wine country, which means it's time for the fruits of my labor. And by fruits, I mean grapes. And by grapes, I mean fermented into liquid form. So many wines, so little time.
Another one. Another one. And another one.
I missed it again. I missed my mouth.